Hi, I'm Laura Grimard, and I've been invited to talk to you about the basics of marketing wide without PPC ads. Before we get started, here's a quick introduction to me and my author journey. I write paranormal romance, urban fantasy, and fantasy romance with a focus on consent issues and healthy relationships. I've written over 200 novellas across 30 different series, roughly speaking, including about 50 co written books. I predominantly write books under 35K at this point in my career, though I have written some longer in the past and I write across multiple heat levels. I started publishing in December 2016, went fully wide in 2018, about halfway through the year, and became a full time author in May 2020. I live in the UK with my partner and fellow full time author, Arizona Tape, and our adorable Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Before I was an author, I worked at a marketing agency specializing in website design and PPC ads, which is a little ironic given the name of my class. I can and have run successful PPC campaigns for myself in the past, though we are talking late 2020 as the last time that I actually did this. The reason I don't run them is because I find them very time consuming and stressful, and I just get better results without. So it's not a case of I can't do it. It's just a case of I don't really want to. So I built a way for my business to be sustainable. I am a best-selling author several times over, including a title of my own in the top 100 of Amazon US, UK, Canada, Australia, at the top 20 of BNN, and I've been on the USA Today bestseller list 3 times as part of multi-author projects. I've also had 39 BookBub featured deals across 6 different categories at the time of this recording. I would like to say that while I have experience in multiple genres, reading, writing, and marketing, and have talked to a lot of authors over the years, everything from this point on is influenced by my personal experience and the genres that I currently write in. There are many different ways to succeed, and this is just how I do it. All of this is meant to be adjusted and customized to your business, as no two other businesses are the same. For example, while Arizona uses a lot of the same strategies as I'm going to go through now, she does do some things differently and she tailors it to her books and her personalities. So, taking into account the things she's good at and the things that she is not. So, the main concept of using a non PPC ad strategy is about the audience building and audience retention. Everything you do has to be about finding the right new reader and or retaining the readers you already have. You want to get as much money out of one single potential reader as possible through keeping them engaged in your brand and with your books. This is not about how to market your books with no money. You'll hear a lot that the concept of wide success is about gaining traction from as many sources as possible. The same is true of marketing without PPC. It is best to use a combination of strategies to get the best success. It's also worth mentioning that everything I say can also be used in conjunction with PPC ads. It is not actually an either or situation. As there are all sorts of definitions and terms in the publishing world, here's a quick rundown of what I mean in the context of this presentation. When I say that I'm wide or that this is a wide tactic, it means selling on multiple platforms and in multiple different ways. Because of time, I'm only focusing on the 5 major retailers: Amazon, Kobo, Barnes& Noble, Apple, and Google Play, as well as Drafted Digital and Smashwords during this presentation. But for me, being wide also includes things such as being on subscription apps like Radish, direct sales, though I'm not the best person to ask advice on those, Kickstarters, subscription platforms like Patreon, libraries, and in person and event sales. One common misconception is that being wide excludes Amazon, whereas this shouldn't be the case. Amazon is also part of being wide and shouldn't be ignored. PPC stands for pay per click and CPC stands for cost per click. These terms are often used interchangeably and are given to advertising where you're paying per click or per interaction. So this includes AMS ads, Facebook ads, BookBub ads, that kind of thing. As I have limited time for my presentation, there are a few things that I'm assuming about the product you're planning on marketing. These are fairly self-explanatory, but involve having a book that is genre appropriately branded, hits readers' expectations, and that has solid writing and editing. In terms of time management, there are some things that could be done with the help of a PA or a partner who is in the business, and others that can be done yourself. So here's just a quick overview of what I'm going to take you through. So we have the marketing tools from the retailers, so Amazon, Kobo, Barnes& Noble, Apple, Google Play, and then Draft Digital and Smashwords. Paid newsletters, BookBub features, promoting with other authors, content marketing, and your own newsletter. So we're going to start with the marketing tools available on the various retailers. One of the real advantages of being wide is that there are lots of tools available from the retailers themselves, which is what I'm about to go through. On Amazon, the tools are limited for books that aren't in Kindle Unlimited. However, you can still nominate titles for monthly and daily Kindle deals. You can find that via the marketing tab and can nominate 2 books at once. It is worth mentioning that Amazon can and will offer you deals on other books that you haven't nominated to, so it's definitely worth keeping an eye on your emails for those. For access to Kobo promotions, it is better to be direct as there are more options, but there are also some promotions available via Drafted Digital. There are 3 main ways to gain marketing support from Kobo. There is the promotions tab, there'll be more on that in a moment, an email list for audio and overdrive promotions, and they also have extra support for BookBub featured deals, which you can email them for. If you don't have the promotions tab or aren't on the audio or overdrive lists, you can email writinglife@kobo.com and request either. For the overdrive and audio sales, you're asked to submit a script spreadsheet to them by replying to the email about the promotion. If you're lucky enough to get a 99-cent BookBub feature deal, you can email Kobo at the same email address and ask for support, and they'll add you to a special discount list. The promotions tab on Kobo has several different options for promotion: buy more, save more, or buy one, get one, percentage off sales, free lists, Kobo Plus lists, and themed promos. They're updated regularly, so definitely keep checking. The promos are curated by Kobo's team, and they can only see the cover and the title when they're picking them. The buy more, save more, and percent off sales don't include a price drop, and the discount is given at the checkout with a coupon code. This means that you don't have to price match the other retailers. You can normally submit 3 to 10 books to these promotions, though they won't automatically accept them all. Definitely read through the instructions on these, as it will tell you what the limit is. The themed price drop sales are usually only for certain countries, so pay attention to the price matching for those ones. All of the retailers have a requirement that the price is the lowest on theirs, so you do need to price match. The free lists available via the promotions tab are the only way to show up when someone searches free on Kobo. If you type free into the Kobo search engine, it'll take you to the page where these books are shown. Your book will stay on the list for the entire time it's free, even after your promotion is over. For promos on paid books, Kobo charges 10% of the royalties, but nothing up front. So for the duration of the promo, you get 60% royalties instead of 70%. For the free lists and Kobo Plus lists, you pay up for an upfront fee. Kobo promo successes vary a lot and seems to be heavily driven by the algorithms. If your book is already performing decently on Kobo, then it is likely it will perform well in promos. These promos do tend to build over time, so keep at it, especially with the ones that don't require upfront payment or price drops. As with Kobo, there are more promotions available via Barnes& Noble if you're direct with them, but they do now offer some promotions through Drafted Digital too. The Barnes & Noble promotions tab is split in 2. Everyone has access to the coupon code options, and there is a secondary section that you have to request by emailing bnmpresssupport@bn.com, which includes monthly promos and standard promos. One thing to keep in mind is that while you can request the promotions tab on BNN, they won't always give it to you straight away. If that's the case, just try again at a future point. Unlike Kobo, BNN promos involve no cost at all, either upfront or royalties. There are 2 types of coupon codes able to be made at BNN: a percentage off and a buy one get one a percentage off. The percent can be anything up to 100%, so you can create your own buy one get ones. One thing to keep in mind for these codes is that they're entirely up to the author to market. BNN won't do anything to help them promote. The first thing to know about the BNN monthly promos is that they're not actually monthly, so you need to check this tab fairly regularly so you don't miss any. The monthly promos are generally themed and sometimes require a price drop, but not always. You will be told if you're accepted. For the most part, you can only submit 1 book per pen name to these promotions, and each will have their own requirements, so read them thoroughly. BNN standard promotions are available all the time and can be used regularly. There are 4 different options. The top indie favorites runs every 8 weeks, and you include 1 book that's releasing within that time frame. There's no discount needed for this one, so it is just extra eyes on your book. The price promo option is great for if you're running a sale or discount, including free. And I'd recommend using this every time you do a discount or set up a new perma-free. If accepted, this adds your book to a discounted list on BNN, so it increases visibility. The Free Friday and Daily Find are emails sent to BNN readers that are incredibly powerful, but also incredibly hard to get. Still worth trying though, so keep at it, even if they're saying no. Unlike the other retailers, Apple doesn't care how you upload to them in terms of getting promotions, and it's generally said that it's easier to get promotions through Drafted Digital than directly through Apple. The Apple promo list is unfortunately difficult to get on because authors aren't allowed to share it with others or even talk much about it. You can get access by having a one-on-one call with Apple or from one of their seminars. So if you see one, I'd advise trying to attend, and as they tend to include useful information and then access to the promo email list as well. Google Play don't have in-house promos the same way that the other retailers do, but there are tools that can still be used. One of the most important things to know is that Google Play is very algorithm driven, so there aren't people involved in the same way as there are at the other retailers. Promotional pricing can be used for any discount, no matter what price you're discounting to and from. It is supposed to be liked a lot by the algorithms to do this, so definitely use it. Promo codes are set by the author and aren't promoted by Google Play, but by the author themselves. You can use this for any discount up to 100%, and you can set up 3 codes per month. Series Bundle are a tool in which you can set discounts to encourage people to buy more of the books in your series by offering bigger discounts the more books and the more series that they buy. While Drafted Digital is an aggregator and not a store, it does have promotional opportunities for the stores and libraries it distributes to. You need to make sure you're opted in to receive emails about the promos, and you can find it in your account settings, then notification preferences. Instructions for each promotion will be included with the emails about them. For Smashwords, which is now reached through Drafted Digital since the merger, there are big sales that happen 3 times a year, and you can opt in via Drafted Digital if you use them, or if you're still direct with Smashwords, you can opt in there. These are fulfilled with coupons, so you don't need to worry about price matching. You can also set up coupons of your own to use at any point during the year with discounts you set. But as with the coupon codes from the other retailers, the responsibility for promoting them is on the author themselves. Now we're moving on to marketing avenues and starting with paid newsletters. So these are newsletters that you are giving them money in exchange for them featuring your book. Many paid newsletters do skew heavily towards Amazon in terms of readership, which isn't an issue so long as you are aware of that when you're making sense of your results and looking at what your ROI is. For wide books, free features tend to perform better than 99-cent deals do, full stop. When choosing which sites to use, it's highly recommended to ask around within your genre to see what's working best for each price point. Those authors will have tried it, they'll know more, and you will be able to get tailored advice for the genre that you actually write. While BookBub featured deals and the new releases for less lists would count as paid newsletters, BookBub has a lot of other features that can be used, which is why I've included this as a different section. BookBub have a couple of free tools that anyone can use, but to make the most of them, you do want to build your followers. The first is recommendations. You can recommend books by other authors in your genre, and they can recommend you, which can either be books that you've read, or they can be organized cross promotions with the other authors. I'll talk more about that in just a moment. There are 3 advantages to this. If you have a BookBub featured deal, the followers of anyone who has recommended your book will get an alert about it. If your book is on pre-order, the followers of anyone who's recommended your book will get the alert about the release, and it will appear on the feed of followers of the author recommending you. That's why it's great to stay within your genre, because then the right readers are seeing the things that you're suggesting. The other tool is the new release alerts. These go out to your US followers on the release of your book. It's automatic, but you do need to make sure that all of your links to the various retailers are up to date, so it sends them all out. BookBub pre-order alerts are a paid option that is available to anyone with over 1,000 followers. You can send twice in the run-up to release on your choice of dates, and the cost is decided based on the US followers who will get the email. BookBub new releases for less go out to the US subscribers of the genre list selected. It's a curated selection and goes out once a week featuring books under $4.99. While it is curated, they are easier to get than featured deals, but that is reflected in how well they perform. BookBub featured deals are highly curated and offer a consistently high ROI. They only feature books over 150 pages according to the Amazon US sales page. Each book can be submitted once every 30 days per price point and can be featured once every 6 months by BookBub. Authors will be featured once every 30 days. This isn't a guarantee. It is just that is the minimum gap between two deals. Regardless of if you're new to Wide or not, a featured deal tends to be a good thing for kickstarting sales. There are lots of different strategies for how to make the most of the deals. Some people like to stack a lot of promos and run a short sale, whereas others don't stack at all and have longer sales. It's important to find which one works for you. Because the list is so curated, rejections are common and it's not a personal thing. You just have to keep submitting and trying. Sometimes they'll offer international only deals, which can be good for wide growth on the non US markets and will often lead to a full deal on the same book at a later date, but they don't tend to have the same impact as a full deal. So, moving on to the next section, which is about promoting with other authors. Promoting with other authors in your genre, subgenre, or niche can be a great way to reach a new audience. For the best results, regardless of what cross promotion is, you want to be ensuring that the books and authors you're cross promoting it with are a good fit for you, your brand, and your books. Newsletter swaps with other authors can be a great way to cross promote so long as you make sure you're swapping with authors whose audience match yours. There are several ways you can find swaps like this. You can either do a one-to-one swap with an author where you'll each feature the other's book in your newsletter. And you can find those through Facebook marketing groups, BookFunnel, Story Origin, or sometimes by forms provided by other authors. The most important thing is to make sure you're reading the requirements of the author that you're swapping with so that you're making sure that it's right. You can also take part in round robins, which are generally set up as 6 to 12 months, where each author sends out one of the other authors every month. In general, free and discounted books will perform better for newsletter swaps, but authors will likely tell you upfront what does best in their lists. There are two things to keep track of when it comes to swaps: what your readers are responding to so you can send out more of that, and which swaps have a good ROI. If you're consistently swapping with an author whose list is resulting in no sales for you, then you shouldn't be swapping with them again. Cross promos can be any size from a few authors or books taking part to dozens of books and authors taking part, and come in various shapes and forms. For the best results, no matter what kind you're taking part in, you should be trying to do the things that fit the best for you. If you have a BookFunnel or Story Origin account, then both of those have cross promo options that you can take part in, often split by genres. You can also have landing page promos that are organized by authors getting together, either through an open call or from authors in the same genre sending messages or emails to organize them. Sometimes these can be hosted on BookFunnel, sometimes on an author's website. Normally, these are highly targeted and will have a very tight theme. Giveaways are another great way to cross promote with other authors, but for the best results, you want to be using books as prizes. Gift cards can be good for a lot of interest, but will also get interest from people who aren't readers. Same with high ticket electronics, even e readers. Giveaways would primarily go hand in hand with audience building rather than immediate sales, so keep that in mind when you're measuring effectiveness. Not all cross promotions are free. There are some paid options. Normally, they're fairly low cost, and you should be looking at the same criteria for them as that you would for other giveaways. There are also freebie blasts that you can take part in. These involve a large group of authors all sending out a newsletter on the same day to a list of free books. Results from these can vary, but they are a free way of pushing books. While it's possible to find all of these opportunities by joining marketing groups on Facebook or going on to BookFunnel or Story Origin, if you're struggling to find what you want, you can organize it yourself, and it's highly advised to use a vetting process so you can select the authors and the books most suitable for your audience. Moving on to content marketing, and specifically in this instance, reader magnets. So reader magnets are one of my favorite and most effective tools when it comes to marketing without PPC, and I could realistically do a talk entirely dedicated to them. To keep things simple, I'm just going to talk about reader magnets from the point of view of attracting new to you readers to give them a taste of your work. I've done a lot of experimenting with reader magnets, but please remember that this is just my experience and opinion. There are multiple ways of doing it. I have between 30 and 40 reader magnets available for me to use, but I don't use them all at the same time. There are two key things to reader magnet success in terms of marketing power. The first is to pick the right reader magnet for your series. It should match the tone, content, heat level, and other factors well. It should be a satisfying read, though it can have a cliffhanger depending on the genre. And there are no word count parameters to reader magnets. They don't have to be shorter than your normal word count. It should just be the best story for the job. The other most important thing is to avoid skimping on your production costs. Your cover and editing should be just as good as for the main series, especially because you're giving it away for free. So the example here is my Shifter Season series, which is a Regency shifter romance. The heroine of the reader magnet is the twin sister of the main character from book one, and the heroine from book one plays an important role in the story of the magnet. So when people read, it then pushes them through to the book one, and then they carry on through the story. On the other end of the spectrum, a previous reader magnet of mine, which has since been retired, was the villain's point of view from a founding of a dystopian city for a vampire urban fantasy series. It didn't convert well because it lacked consistency with the rest of the series in terms of tone and content, even though the plot was heavily based on the series itself. So, in order to make the most of it, you need to think all of it through. Basically, a good reader magnet should be showcasing your talent and what your unique voice is like. It should be convincing potential new readers about why they should give you a go. Once you've got your reader magnet ready to go, you need to get it into potential readers' hands. And there are multiple ways to do this. You can list your reader magnet on retailers and have it set to free in order to push readers through your series. Or you can load it to a service such as BookFunnel or Story Origin in order to attract newsletter subscribers. Whichever option you choose, you have to make sure that it's reaching people. Using things like those covered in this presentation with cross promos and working with other authors within your genre, subgenre, and niche. It is important to remember that you don't want to catch as many readers as possible indiscriminately. You want to be reaching as many of your target readers as possible. Personally, I like to have a mix of the two available and will cycle reader magnets on and off free on retailers, which is and then have others available for newsletter download, which is also why I like to have multiple reader magnets in a series. Another good example of content marketing is through anthologies and shared worlds. They're almost a cross between reader magnets and cross-promoting with other authors. There is a major caveat to this that you need to be in the right anthologies and shared worlds with the right stories, and you should always be properly vetting the organizers. The right fit comes down to genre, distribution, wide versus KU, price point, and other factors like that. It is going to vary based on your personal business. When it comes to anthologies, I never really enter into them with the idea of making a lot of money from the anthology itself. It can happen, but it's not my primary goal. The goal is to reach as many readers who can go on to become long-term readers as mine as possible. In general, the best anthologies in terms of reader building and retention have a competitive price point and a tight theme. The story I need to put into an anthology needs to have a clear place to sell through to, which matches the theme of the anthology. Consider it in the same vein as a reader magnet that you're just using in a different way. So this example is a fantasy fairy tale anthology I was invited to take part in, which includes my fantasy fairy tale romance, Spindles and Spells, which sells through to a currently 19-book series that is all fantasy fairy tales, making a good fit for helping market the series. Shared worlds have a lot of similarities with anthologies, and a lot of the same considerations should be made. The advantage that they have over anthologies is that each author keeps their own royalties, sometimes minus a management fee. There's normally a type to theme through shared worlds, and sometimes creative elements that all the authors involved have to use. So the example here is the speed dating with the denizens of the underworld shared world, which is run by Naughty Knights Press, and I have 5 books in this shared world. The common theme is that gods from all over the world are going speed dating, and all of the authors have to include that in their books. The advantage of the shared world is that another author's readers will come into the series via that author's book. They'll then find mine that is similar that is similar in terms of content and theme, because that's what the shared world is, and then go on to read my similar books outside the shared world. In this case, I have several mythology paranormal romance series that fit well with the tone of the books that I've written in the speed dating world. Basically, I'm using something that's already making me money to make me more money. And but in doing that, I can find readers that fit well with my books. This one might not actually feel like marketing, but is a very useful tool if it's something that you are wanting to do and that you are good at. So, writing in a bigger universal world can be a great way of marketing with a very minimal extra work. It means that you can create a stronger sell through path between two different series or multiple series. So, take these 5 series as examples. Though they don't represent the entire universe that they're set in, which actually has around 70 titles in it, it these ones are linked together, so it's why I chose them. So Pumpkin Spice and All Things Nice is book 1 of a series that's just been completed, and it's had a lot of promo over the past year. It's also very popular with my readers, so it's a good starting point. The So, off the back of a lot of that promotion, the sales of some of the others have increased. This is harder to tell on series that are still releasing, but on backlist series, it's quite easy to watch. So, The Cupcake Witch and the rest of the series follows the cousins of the main characters from Pumpkin Spice. They appear throughout each other's books, and the series actually both sell very well through to each other. First Time's a Charm's heroine plays an important role in Pumpkin Spice series, whereas the heroine of Harpy's Mission and the main characters of Cooking Classes for Vegetarian Ghouls have much smaller cameos, but all link into the wider universe and send readers from a popular book into another series. This also works the other way. So, for example, when I had a book club feature deal on the Cupcake Witch, it pushed through to sales of Pumpkin Spice. When First Time's a Charm had a bump from being free, it pushed through to Pumpkin Spice because they are linked at the end of the series too. So basically, what it does is creates a chain of books where if one of them gets a boost, they can all get a boost. I've used author notes in my books for a few years now, and often I will use them as a place to tell readers more information about the book itself. So things like research that I did, or world building notes, or even how a certain character connects with me as the author. But I also use them to highlight connections between series like the ones that I mentioned on the previous slide. But if you don't want to use interconnected series, you can also use author notes to point to books or series with similar themes. So this is an example from one of my Jinx paranormal dating agency books. There is a mention of a series set in the same world, but there are also mentions of 2 other series that are not connected in terms of world. One of them is connected by the use of mythology, and one from the dating app angle. This is most effective when you have a series with a very tight theme, but is ultimately a very passive way of marketing. It's easy to set up once you finish writing the book and then just leave it. It's there and can continually bring readers in every time that particular book has a boost. Moving on to social media. I am going to caveat this with admitting that I don't do TikTok and that I'm not very good at Instagram. So I am mostly focusing on Facebook, but some of the theory can be transferred to other sites. If you're not doing PPC ads, then you need to consider how and what you're using your social media for. In general, you want to keep people interacting with you. So for social media, I have 2 main goals. The first is growing my audience, and the second is growing the interaction so that my posts get shown to more people. The higher both of these things get, the more they take care of themselves, and so it becomes a little self-automated situation. In general, I don't spend a huge amount of time on this. I create media kits when I finish writing a book, then schedule it for the 10 days over release. I also schedule media kits across the length of a sale, meaning that I have constant stream of content going out on my page and into my group. It does also post to Instagram, but as I'm not active there, it's not as effective as on Facebook. Though this will vary depending on which platform is the most natural fit for each individual author. After that, it's a case of interacting with readers, which I do via Meta Business Center, mostly between writing sprints. When it comes to the split of informative posts to interactive posts, you want to lean more towards interactive, as the more people interact with your content, the more it gets seen. But when you are doing informative posts, make sure that you're highlighting important information that could sell your book. So, for example, on the Ancient Nightcap and That's a Wrap release post, it's clear that it's a series finale. The Bastet sale graphic highlights the second chance in mythology, and then the She's a 10 graphic for Mer's journey is a bit more fun, but highlights one of the heroines, Frog Familiar, which is a selling point for the book itself. For interactive posts, I like to keep things relevant to the book still, while giving readers something fun to choose from. In general, keep these as simple as possible. The more complicated the post, the more likely it is that people are going to skip it. But you can also use these fun posts to convey things about the books they're related to. For example, choosing a cat might seem non book related, but the main character is a cat goddess, can shift into a cat, and there are just a lot of cats in the book. The ABC answer question draws straight from the fairy tale that Frost and Fears is inspired by, in this case, the Snow Queen, and highlights a key plot point. And the Would You Rather highlights the modern dating for ancient gods in both Dating a Love Goddess and in Horace. This is just a small selection of the types of interactive posts I do, and they do result directly in sales from the posts themselves, at least according to my readers. But most importantly, using interactive posts keeps my page and my group relevant so that when I post about a new release or a new sale, people see it and then they can go on to buy. Takeovers in other authors' groups and general reader groups on social media can be a great place to find potential new readers, though not all of them are created equal. You can often find these, and they run in several different ways. Some are an event to celebrate something, such as a new release or a milestone. Some of them are more introductions of the author to a reader space. For the post part, my focus when it comes to doing takeovers is about getting readers to move into my reader group or onto my newsletter. Once they're there, I can focus on marketing my books to them. So here is an example of one of my posts from a recent takeover that had nearly 400 comments. Though on past iterations of the post, I have had over 1,000 comments, that is. The book choices on the graphic are all reader magnets of mine too, so it's giving people something for free while pushing targeted series. It's a win-win all around. I gain subscribers, interaction, and potential future readers. Other posts that I tend to include a giveaway about why joining my group is an option, and Ask Me Anything, and other interactive content. I will often use the same games that I'll use in my group, though I do try and space them out so I'm not using the same ones all the time. Effective use of promotional pricing requires the use of a lot of the tactics mentioned already, but it is worth mentioning that the bigger your backlist and the more interlinked your backlist, either through interconnected series or just through a tight genre, subgenre, or niche, the more effective a freebie or discount is going to be. When you're picking books to try as a freebie or a discount, the main things to consider are the sell through strength and how much of your backlist it sells through to you. When it comes to free promotional pricing, the first thing to know is that you actually have to promote the freebie, especially permafrees. If they're ignored, they're not going to do anything for you. When considering what to put free, you want to be assessing your series based on how good the sell through is between the free book and the next one, how long your series is, and how on market your series is. Freebies on a shorter series can work, especially if you have a streamlined backlist, but a freebie on a longer series is likely to have a better and more robust return on investment. An on-market series is much more likely to have successful promotion. As for when to put your book free or perma-free, the answer is that it varies. When I first went wide, perma-frees made a huge difference to my income, but now that I have more titles, the promotion time gets watered down, so instead I focus on more concentrated free runs of a week to a month long. The best way to figure out what works best for you is just to try it and to experiment. Discounts can be a great way of revitalizing backlist, especially if it's a series that you don't want to run a freebie on. This is an example of when I ran a backlist sale earlier this year. You can see the spikes for the original release of books 1 to 3, and the fourth spike is the re-release of a connected standalone that was previously in a multi-author anthology. The final spike is a 99-cent sale I ran. I took part in a couple of cross promos, had a few newsletter swaps, and sent out my own newsletter. But other than that, I didn't put any money into the promotion, and the series had its best month ever. It is worth noting that this series is one of my lesser performing ones, though it was already profitable before the sale. I didn't want to put this one free because it actually was free for about 10 months and it didn't do much, so I didn't want to do that again. For this series, 99 cent worked a lot better. Unfortunately, there's no way of knowing whether a series will respond better to free or 99 cents until you've tried both. You can also use discounts on pre-order pricing, though this should be done sparingly. With a discount, same as with free, the aim isn't the money from this particular book, but the money from the sell-through that you get because you sold this book. If you've been around the author space for a while, you've probably heard a lot of people saying that your newsletter is one of your most important tools. And that is definitely true when it comes to marketing without PPC. This goes hand in hand with the concept I mentioned at the start of the presentation about audience building and audience retention. Your newsletter is the prime place for doing both. There are some great talks specifically on newsletters, so I'm just going to touch on some of the things that overlap with the other concepts in the presentation. When it comes to building your newsletter, there are a lot of ways. You can make it totally organic, just from people in the back of your books and from your website. This is a reader retention technique and will likely create a very engaged list. If you want to more actively build, you've got several options, including giveaways, book funnel, story origin promos, and bonus content. There are also reader magnets, which I went into detail about earlier. The disadvantage of these ways of building is that many of them are bringing in lukewarm or even cold leads. The advantage is that you have more people to potentially bring into your readership. In general, it is advisable to keep the subscribers separate depending on where they're coming from. It is also important to make sure that you are aware of various laws from around the world that affect newsletter subscribers, including CAN spam and GDPR, regardless of your location, so that you can choose the best methods of recruiting potential subscribers and not fall afoul of them. Once a reader has subscribed to your list, you have your first opportunity to connect with them, and for many people, that comes in the form of automations. There are lots of different ways of doing them, but from a marketing angle, I like to use automations as a super targeted way of selling one thing to the potential reader. Most of the time, readers are coming into my newsletter through a reader magnet or the back of one of my books, so I like to tailor my automations to that specific series. You can track how well this works with attribution links or other trackable links. This is just one way of doing automations. There are lots of different options, and it's definitely worth playing around with until you've managed to find the one that works best for you. There is no real right way to do your author newsletter, but if you're looking for the perfect way, there are two things that I'd recommend. The first is experimenting with your layout, content, sending schedule, and anything else you think you would want to. The other would be to find mid-list authors with comparable books to yours and check out what they do, see what you like and what you don't, and go from there. The reason to choose mid-list authors for this is because they're selling books all the time because of what they're doing and writing, not just because of their name or the past work that they've put in, like authors at the very top. That's not to say that either type of those groups of authors aren't working hard. They absolutely are. But you are more likely to get actionable things from authors who are selling their books because of what their books are, rather than an author who is selling because readers are hyping up their specific name. No matter how often you send, it is recommended to send on a regular schedule rather than haphazardly. That means consistent day, date, and/or time. Then how often you send is likely going to come down to how much news you have. The more often you release and the bigger your backlist, the more often you're probably going to have to send. You don't want to be afraid to send more regularly if you find yourself putting too much into each newsletter. Ideally, you want one piece of main news aside from any cross promos or newsletter swaps, though you should also keep those to a manageable level. Basically, you don't want to overload subscribers with options or they might not click anything. It is also recommended to use the resend option to unopens, which maximizes the reach of each of the newsletters you're sending. This is also a great place to showcase your brand. While brand isn't just a visual thing, you do want to include the elements of the visual in your newsletters so that it all matches and makes readers think of you. Brand management is much bigger than I could possibly go into in a short space of time. But I do think it's a very important part of marketing without PPC, or actually just marketing in general. For trying to build a sustainable business model without using PPC ads, brand management is one of the most important factors. You want to create the least friction possible between the reader and the next step in your brand, whether that is signing up to your newsletter, buying the next book, or anything like that. One thing that goes hand in hand with the section on pricing and entry points is that without KU, many readers go in and search by price. That means that you want your strongest book and entry points to show up as the cheapest, with the weaker ones at a higher price point where they're more likely to be picked up by readers who are already into your books and style. That does feel counterintuitive, but it does work in terms of getting long-term readers. This is just something to keep in mind when you're choosing your price model in general. Brand streamlining is also important. It's really tempting to keep every book you've ever written published and available, but sometimes things aren't a good fit. It's okay to move these off to another pen name or unpublish them completely, particularly if it's not a good fit for the rest of your backlist. It could be causing friction in the whole buying process. And even though you've got less for sale, the alternative is that you would lose readers. This also goes for rebranding. Make sure your covers and blurbs are a good match for your genres and subgenres you're writing in. And if the covers need updating, then it's better to do that than to lose potential target readers. And finally, there's a consideration of hitting the reader expectations you set for your audience, which goes in line with audience retention. This doesn't mean reader expectations in the market, though that is also important. A good example is if I were to write and release a dark romance, I would have a lot of pushback from the readers that I already have because it isn't in line with the expectations I've set for them, which is very focused on lighthearted, fun, consent positive, and centered around healthy relationships. If a reader picks up one of my books and those aspects aren't there, it's going to create a bit of friction, and there is a chance that I could lose that reader. As a visual way of sharing one of the concepts I've been talking about, I wanted to share what I think of as the ideal reader journey with you. It is worth noting that this is specific for my business, so you might want to build out your own based on the steps that you have in place. In this case, I've caught the eye of a potential target reader through one of the methods that I have talked about in the presentation. In this case, let's say a reader magnet that was in a cross promo. The reader reads the reader magnet and then moves on to the connected book, probably the first book in a series. At the end of the first book, they will then sign up to my newsletter, at which point they'll learn of a new series, then they'll read the second series, and then they'll go on and read another one, I hope, and basically continuing the journey until they are a superfan. Each time I have a new series and a new reader magnet, there are two things I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get new readers into my ideal reader journey, and I'm trying to get my existing readers into the new series, which is the concept that I explained at the beginning of the presentation. The reader magnet, that is the reader's first point of contact, could be exchanged with any other entry point into the series or into your backlist, for example, via discounted or free book or new release. Building a strategy that doesn't use PPC is about audience building and audience retention. Everything you do should be about the ideal reader journey in mind and how you can encourage the most people possible to enter and not leave. So here I have some suggested actionable items. These are just suggestions based on my personal experience of building a successful business without PPC, but there are lots of different things and you might have taken something different away from my presentation. There are multiple other ways to success, and you don't have to take any of these as facts. So I would say that if you have 15 or more books across 3 series that match in genre and tone, then I'd recommend prioritizing a strong reader magnet for your main series as how to get more readers in. If you have 6 books across 2 series that match in genre and tone, then I'd recommend focusing on a 99-cent or free sale on your strongest book 1. If you have 3 books in one series, I'd recommend focusing on a book 1 99-cent sale. Wait on the free until you have more books that they can cycle through. And if you have 1 or 2 books or no series over 3 books, then I'd focus on non-discounted avenues of promotion while you're writing the next book. These options can be combined, and as with everything else I've mentioned in the presentation, You don't have to do everything, but adding in different things at different points can help build a robust and sustainable model that will continue to make you income. Thank you for listening. I hope you found it helpful. This presentation is just an overview of the main methods I've used to create a sustainable and stable business for myself. But as I mentioned before, everything I've said needs to be tailored to your books, time, and personality. There is also the Wide with Novellas and Novelettes group on Facebook for wide specific discussions and questions, where you'll find a lot of authors across lots of genres writing short. So that's it. Thank you very much for listening.